45 days have passed since the apes set sail in search for answers. In the past, they had tried to destroy the Statue of Liberty, but in the vicinity of this place, they found the body of a giant ape, a Kong who had lost its life. This led the apes to search beyond the Forbidden Zone, to enter Skull Island and kidnap the last Kong of their kind. But what happens when this giant creature is transported to the Ape City? In this video, we continue with the fourth part of the Kong on the Planet of the Apes comic book. And if you want to know how this story concludes, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because we will be talking about everything related to the Planet of the Apes universe. Welcome to the Oasis Geek. This story begins with the apes arriving in their boats at the seashore, near the remains of the Statue of Liberty. As the apes carefully disembark Kong from the ship, the scientists observe the majesty of this creature. You can see in Kong's face, however, that he is suffering from being in this place. Dr. Zaius asks Ursus to keep the ape close to the Forbidden Zone. He must prepare everything for his arrival to the city. Ursus's soldiers stay close by watching Kong, so that he does not escape or try anything. However, Dr. Zaius claims that nothing will happen, because now Kong feels calm, being with people of his own kind. However, we can see that in Kong's face, there is a horror of being snatched from his home and transported to a place he does not recognize. Meanwhile, Nita the human is taken off the ship, and she begins to scream at Zira and Cornelius as she believes they betrayed her. Zira then covers Nita's mouth for her own good. It is better for a human not to talk in this place. Meanwhile, on the ship, Argus and Ursus talk about how to train these other creatures that arrived on the ship. They are prehistoric dinosaur-like reptiles and extremely dangerous. According to Ursus, they have not given them food for more than 3 days, and they were planning more days in order to subdue them to their will. According to the general, if an animal goes too long without food, it becomes aggressive, but if it goes longer, it eventually submits to its master, and this is what they want to do with these dangerous creatures. However, when Dr. Zaius arrives in town, there is a protest. We see different apes protesting for human rights. They ask that the hunting of humans be stopped and that they be given more rights. Remember that in the first movie, humans were hunted, but George Taylor left a very good impression on many of them. Meanwhile, Zira tries to move Nita unnoticed, but a protesting ape snatches the rag covering her mouth, thus freeing her lips a bit, which leads Nita to shout that these apes are traitors and should not be trusted while she is crying. Nita has lost her family in the war and has also been kidnapped from her home. The apes at the protest are surprised to see Nita speaking. While the apes are surprised, Dr. Zaius tells Ursus that they should not have brought that woman to the city, as she may end up destroying something they justly want to prevent. Dr. Zaius, Zira, Cornelius, and Ursus arrive to talk to the city council, who begin to question the purpose of bringing the ape to the city. However, Ursus surprises everyone by proposing a second expedition, but for military purposes. Ursus's idea is to take advantage of all the resources of Skull Island in order to help his own city. The search for resources is something common in all tribes of humans and apes, and it is not strange that Ursus wishes to take advantage of the resources of this island in his favor. However, Dr. Zaius is upset and says that a second expedition was not planned and feels that they are downplaying the importance of the great ape's discovery. For her part, Zira feels that they should return to the island because the research was not concluded. Zaius is upset and says that Zira is lying and that her research should not be taken into account. For his part, Zaius wants to turn Kong into a kind of deity to be worshipped and keep them away from the truth of what this ape is, while Zira wants to study Kong's culture and give a logical explanation to everything that has happened. The council asks Cornelius for his opinion, as they see him as neutral. They question him on whether he believes Kong is a type of god, to which Cornelius says he thinks it is possible, and that the possibility should be explored further. Zira questions herself why Cornelius is now taking a similar stance to Dr. Zaius. While the doctor proposes a motion to remove Zira from her job as a scientist on the expedition and have her arrested, something the council agrees with. Zira begins to scream as she is arrested because she wants the truth to be known, that on that island the humans lived in peace with Kong, while Dr. Zaius wants to turn Kong into a deity to be worshipped, to keep the apes in the city in control. Meanwhile, the council gives all power back to Zaius and forbids Ursus to have a second expedition. Something that annoys Ursus, who recruits Cornelius for his team. Meanwhile, Zira arrives home to find Lucius, her nephew, and tells him that Cornelius now works for Dr. Zaius, and that there is much she must tell him. Zira feels that Cornelius, upon discovering the truth of Kong on that island, has preferred to continue believing his old ideas and join Dr. Zaius, because he prefers the comfort of former ideas to having to face the harsh reality that his religion has been a lie. Dr. Zaius intends to bring Kong to the city and make the apes believe that they have freed the beast from the humans. He will then end Nita's life and start a new era in their religion. But there is a problem. Zira documented everything in her journals, which makes her a target. Dr. Zaius wants to keep the truth hidden, but only Zira knows what really happened, and Lucius must get her to safety. Meanwhile, in the city square, Dr. Zaius prepares to show Kong, begins by asking to be forgiven for being absent for several weeks, but that he marched with scientists and military personnel beyond the Forbidden Zone, a place where there were humans and bloodthirsty creatures. But in the midst of the chaos he found Kong, a creature that was evidence that apes are the superior species in the world. Then Dr. Zaius begins to tell a story that never happened. He tells them that on that island, the humans mistreated Kong, took advantage of him, and used him as a slave. The apes could not watch this mistreatment any longer, and decided to free Kong at the risk of their own lives. But then, Dr. Zaius begins to delve deeper into their beliefs, and says that the lawgiver didn't know about Kong's existence, and that this is evidence they will now have a new beginning. History will be rewritten. This is a new revelation of their faith, with Kong as the centerpiece of their religion. According to Zaius, the reason Kong exists is to inherit the rest of the planet. As the doctor says this, Kong watches sadly and with tears in his eyes, and the rest of the apes are excited, being manipulated by this cruel doctor. Kong is put in a prison, while Nita watches from afar, and tells the wild humans who are with her that on her island that ape protects the humans. Although the savages look at her, none of them respond back to her, because only she has the ability to speak. Now, Ursus and Cornelius arrive at the place where they have the prehistoric reptiles, and here, the desperate soldiers tell Ursus that these creatures are impossible to train, that they have already eaten several apes. However, Cornelius believes that even a fish could be trained, so Ursus asks his men to try again. However, the soldiers threaten Ursus that they will tell the council the truth of these creatures, as they think Ursus will cause everyone to lose their lives. Ursus gets upset and points a gun at his soldier and shoots. As Ursus starts shooting at his own soldiers, one of them runs up and opens the cage where the creatures are. Ursus shouts to close the gates and to not let the creatures out. But it is too late. Argus has failed Ursus, and now the creatures are heading for the city. Ursus watches in horror as the reptiles begin to eat all the apes in the city. What will happen to the ape city? Will they all lose their lives, or will they be saved? That's a topic for a future video. But tell me, what do you think about this story? Could it be that just as Ursus wanted to go to Skull Island to acquire resources, so Proximus Caesar will be looking for resources for his tribe in the next film? Drop your opinion in the comments. And for more videos from the Planet of the Apes universe, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. You are on The Oasis Geek.